This program is brought to you by the Media Liberty Alliance Foundation in cooperation with OBBM Network TV, bringing citizen-led, creative local media to the forefront of local communities to foster a greater understanding of constitutional liberty and appreciation of what makes us truly free, starting with you and me.
Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. That way you're updated each time fresh content comes out. And thank you for being part of the Zach Ratliff Show. The Zach Ratliff Show is brought to you by Mortgage Financial in Texarkana, Texas, Elmwood Custom Goods, and Church on the Rock, Texarkana. That's churchontherock.org. Hello and welcome to the Zach Ratliff Show. I'm Zach. This is my friend Dale Huls.
Hey guys.
Dale, man, thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. It's a cold December day out there right now.
It is, but it ain't as cold as yesterday. And anytime you call, I'll come running.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. I just thank God, one, for our friendship. I've enjoyed knowing you these past few years, but just to be able to come talk about politics and what's going on and to live in a country where we still have a say.
Yeah, we're not like England. Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, and that's a rabbit hole we could go down at some point because, we jumped up when I did your show. I don't know, about a year ago, probably.
Has it been that long?
Maybe not quite.
Dude, we got to get you back.
Yeah. That's a rabbit hole we jumped down with the whole Muslim thing. And it's only gotten worse since then.
It has. I mean, the problem is exacerbated. We're coming up on another, after these elections, we'll have another legislative session. Texas has to do more. Abbott declaring that he's ended the Muslim threat isn't enough.
Yeah. What did he? I think I know. I've heard it speculated that John Cornyn received funds from certain groups and like CARE and all that, but I haven't seen the proof. And then I've heard it speculated that Abbott did too. But I think people just say that sometimes to try to burn them. So I'm not sure.
Well, you've heard that. You've heard about him getting money from the developers of that immigrant illegal alien neighborhood they've got up north of Houston. But what they're going after Abbott now is the $13 million in state funding that's gone to these Muslim organizations.
Right. Which, I know we've got other stuff to get to, but we'll just kind of hit on this for a second.
Yeah.
I'm not against you being a Muslim. I'm against Sharia law.
Well, it's more than Sharia law. Islam itself is a political ideology that all encompasses everything, and it goes under the patina of religion.
Right.
I mean, the religious part of it is there. But, if it only was calling prayer 5 times a day and, giving charity and doing these other stuff, fine.
Right.
But it's so much more than that. It's a political ideology. Once these guys get enough influence in a country, they take it over and they impose their will on everybody else. It is not truly a religion. In Christianity, we don't impose that on anybody else. We try to convert.
Right.
We say, here's the word of God. We preach the gospel, and we say, but this is between you and God.
Right.
And you have to make that decision. You have to accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior. But if you don't, you don't. They'll put you to the sword.
Well, and we don't have honor killings. We don't have. We're not allowed to rape people.
Right.
I mean, there's a whole lot to it. There was a girl that her dad and her brother, golly, somewhere in the car. I talked about this last week. They found her dead in a ditch, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's our culture. We're allowed to do that." She shamed us. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, I mean, it is. The thing is, there's so much out there. There's quote unquote Muslim scholars that preach the moderation of Islam, and then you've got the imams, they're preachers out there saying, we're going to take over. This is jihad, and there's different forms of jihad. It's just that it depends on how much density of population that they compose of, depending on what type of jihad they put on you.
Well, that's like in hold on, I've
lived over in Saudi Arabia for 5 years. I've lived under Sharia law, and you can't even get in a traffic accident there where the other guy runs into you, because it's still your fault if you're not Muslim and you're from out of the country. Because if you were, if you weren't there in the first place, the accident never would have happened. So it's your fault.
Right. Yeah. well, and I referenced this movie the other day. It was a 1980s or 1980, late 80s, early 90s Sally Field movie.
Smokey and the Bandit.
But it's where she was married a Muslim guy, and he takes her back over to Saudi Arabia, or one of those guys, and then she can't leave.
Oh, yeah.
Like they are in control.
Oh, and I've worked with people where the woman had married a Muslim guy. They had a kid, and the guy just took the kids and went back to the Muslim country, and she has no recourse. She can't get her kids back.
Right.
And it's just horrible.
Yeah, it's a wild deal. We need to watch out for that. And look, here in Texarkana, there's a large Muslim population. Actually, on the radio, on my radio show that I had, I had a couple Muslim listeners that would call and text and be like, "Hey, we agree with you on a lot of the conservative stuff, and they'd be like, but yeah, you gotta take it easy on us, some, but I appreciated actually, that on the conservative stuff they agreed with a lot, but on the extreme stuff, we probably don't agree,
Well, it's, but they work in such a way. It's almost, like it's. I'm just going to say it's like organized crime. They get into everything.
Yeah.
The Muslim community is very big in the discount tire. And I'm not saying discount tire,
not the company, yeah,
but in the overall automotive tire industry.
Really?
Yeah. There's a lot of Muslims out there who own companies and shipping companies and everything else like that. And they all work together, and they bring down prices, and they undercut the competition. I mean, they do a lot of that. Epic City, we talk about now, the Meadows, is another example.
Sounds so much better.
Yeah, is another example of them working together to get their community. Now, I try to look at it from like, well, what if a bunch of Christians said we want to live together, and they do, and they do, but it's not, we don't rename our roads after the saints, and
right.
We don't impose, Catholic doctrine on everybody.
Right.
It's like, yeah, you believe in Jesus, good for you.
Right. Yeah. So do I. Maybe we clap at my church and you don't at yours, but I mean, we're not going to murder you over it.
Exactly. And we're not, it's not a sin to, for us, we're not the judges, and we're not the executioners, if you will, for sin here.
Right.
That's between you and God.
Yeah, that's exactly.
So anyway, all right. Now, first rabbit hole. We just got out the gate.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how it's going to go.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into, I mentioned this yesterday, for our state district, which is SD1. HD1.
Our House District.
Yeah, House District 1. Gary Van Dever is our representative, and he's decided not to run again.
Yes, he has. And,
let me preface this. For those that don't know, Dale ran against him in the last election, which is actually when we got reconnected and started doing regular shows together. And ran a good race. Van Dever came out on top on that one. But here we are this time, which, if I remember correctly, and I'm, like I said, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, there was a thought 2 years ago that he wasn't going to run.
There was a rumor at first, and that's why you had various and sundry people wanting to jump in. Some of them did, some of them didn't.
Right.
I was always going to run against him, because it's like, I've dealt with him for a couple of sessions, and he just never would show me nothing. He would run one way and he'd vote a different way.
Right.
He was a toady to the Rhino establishment that we had running the Texas House. And, I just thought he was not a good representative for the people in this district.
Now, and I've said this before, and I said it yesterday when I talked about this. Gary Van Dever, even when on the radio, he said, "Hey, it was about the Ken Paxton, where they vote to throw him out of office, the impeachment."
Oh yeah, the impeachment.
And he said, "I'm going to vote for that." And I said, "I don't agree with it." And he said, "Okay, if it doesn't go through, I'll come back here and answer for my vote." And he did.
Yeah.
And so that's what I said yesterday, and I stand by this.
he would vote for some way, and I didn't agree with him, but he would come back and say, "Hey, this is what I believed," and at least he would stand by it. And there's credit where credit's due on
there. There is a strain of integrity in him where he does, but he stands for the wrong thing. He has integrity on the wrong things,
right?
And he made no bones about it. He would always stand with leadership in the Texas House.
Right.
He would not go against them. A lot of his base, electoral base, was educators, teachers, and everybody. And if you were, that's why he was so adamant against school choice.
Yeah.
He was one of only 2 Republicans in the House and the Senate that voted against school choice in the last legislative session. I mean, that's going down with a ship.
Which wild thing on that whole deal, I'm pro-teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pro-teacher all the way. I'm anti-red tape. I'm anti-establishment. I'm for give the power back to local districts and local teachers.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't know how that's a crazy place to be, but apparently it is.
I've been working on a side project of mine, core curriculum, low tech, return to Texas basics. Back, decades ago when we had great performance from our students, we were the envy of the world for our education system.
Right.
And look at where we are now with all the progressive ideas and new teaching methods and everything else. We suck.
Here's my thought on that. I agree, but I have some differing thoughts on that. We're the only country in the world that requires every kid to go.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. The poorest of the poor and the highest of the high, you're going to school. Where in some countries, maybe not the only one, but we're one of a few, maybe I should say.
Right.
And, if you're in wherever, Bangalore or whatever, there's a chance if you're too poor, you just go to work.
Well, let me tell you something a little bit about myself then. Going on that thing. I retired from NASA.
Yeah.
I worked in the nuclear weapons program.
See, I wasn't even going to bring it up this time.
I've been in the Air Force. I've done lots of things in my life. But did you know I'm a high school dropout?
Oh, really?
Yeah. When I turned 16 and I was in the 10th grade, I could not stand high school.
Yeah.
And I said, I've had enough of it. And I left. And I can remember the teacher calling me and going, please come back. I go, I went, no. He goes, why are you dropping out? Because I can't stand you guys.
Right.
And I found that day-to-day grind just was not for me. I went at 16 years old, I would drive myself from Fernandina Beach to Jacksonville, Florida, and go to adult education, high school education at night at a junior college.
Right, just to be done with it.
And I graduated like a week before I turned 17, and it's like, I dropped out of high school, but I also finished my high school education,
right?
A year earlier, than most people would.
Okay.
Because I did it on my own timeline, and because public school is not right for everybody.
Right.
Sometimes you got to go your own way. I had different public alternatives.
Right.
The adult high school education completion program.
Yeah.
Basically night school. And so, I did that because it worked for me. And we got to have different things. We can't just keep pushing everybody into the same box over and over and over again and seeing what the results are and saying we got to go with that.
And then letting the big cats in Austin do what they want to do and mold their minds in ways that we don't want to do that.
Exactly. But I know, second rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's fine. And I've written some notes here to kind of come back to. Okay, so back to Van Dever. He stepped out. We thought that was going to. He won last time. So then that, in my mind at first, I'm like, all right, that puts our mutual friend, Chris Spencer, that puts him in a good position. But then as soon as I thought that, I thought, no, I know how these things go. There's someone else that's been appointed to run. He's been given the mantle.
You're right. And let me walk your audience through this a little bit.
Okay.
Gary Van Dever won the election last time.
Right.
But on primary day, he lost. Between Chris Spencer and myself, we got over 50% of the vote.
Yes.
And if it only had been one or the other of us, chances are we would have beat him. Now, in the runoff, he got all his base out, Chris did not quite get the base that he had out there for a second time. It's tough when you're a challenger to run like that,
Right.
especially when there was another hard conservative in the race.
Well, and also when the school districts were telling teachers they were going to lose their jobs immediately. And, they will tell you that they weren't, but there were a lot of teachers out there that were afraid that they were about to get fired over
And
this.
yeah, a lot of them still are, even though nothing's happened, they're still terrified. School choice went through. Well, it wasn't really school choices, different government options.
The rhinos just kicked us right in the nuts on that one.
But anyway, that was one thing. So look at it that way. Gary knew he was in trouble last election. Since then, he has not raised any money. He has not.
Because there was a lot of money spent last election.
He had $1 million worth of money coming in to support his campaign against school choice,
Right.
which is what it was. And so he's not done any fundraising this last cycle. So, it's like, oh my God, he can't possibly be running, but he never would say he won. Second thing is he's cut back on his public appearances a whole lot. He doesn't look like a guy who is being chased by the guy he just beat out last time.
Right.
He's not doing those things that you should if you're campaigning. So that's number two. Number three, his house is on the market. It's been on the market for over 200 days.
Huh.
This guy doesn't.
Which, side note, as a real estate professional, it's a hard market right now.
It is, but still, and he's probably got it overpriced anyway. But anyway.
Call me Gary. We can look at it.
But anyway, those three things taken together tells me he wasn't running. But until he says he's not, he was.
Right.
Okay. Now, the rumor amongst the political guys who speculate on this stuff all the time was he was looking for somebody to run in his place. And there was speculation on various mayors in Bowie County and other places. And the thing is, this week, when he announced that he was dropping out of the race, that he wasn't going to run for re-election. He didn't actually drop out. So he wasn't going to run for re-election. And almost immediately after that, boom, here comes Josh Bray,
Right.
Lamar County.
Who I've never heard of, but I'm not that connected.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll talk about him a little bit more too. But immediately after Van Deaver publicly announced he wasn't running, this guy pops up and says, I'm running. And he's got...
Which, as we know, this isn't a decision you make in 30 seconds.
No. And he's got a website going and everything. So he's got consultants and, this has been in the works for a while.
Okay.
And the timing of Van Deaver's announcement and his announcement shows a marked level of coordination between the two. So I'm like, okay, so this is Gary's guy. And another reason I look at that, I looked at the website of Josh Bray, and he's like a Paris Junior College board member, Paris Junior College Foundation member.
Okay.
So he's tied up in the
he's education establishment.
Yes.
Okay.
Josh Bray built up a sanitation company with 150 employees.
Cool.
And he worked hard. And yay, kudos to that. I love self-made people who take an idea and a business and make it successful. And he was bought out just by somebody else. So he's got a whole bunch of money.
American dream, right? And build it and sell it.
He's got a little ranch out there, and he's on all these boards. He's on the economic development board and all this stuff. But one thing he hadn't been in? Politics.
Right.
For the last couple of years, I've done a lot up in Lamar County when I was running for election. Since then, my radio show, I stay in touch with the Republican guys up there, and I never heard of Josh Bray.
I was at a meeting with you up there. When was that? This summer?
Oh, yeah, that's right. We had a meeting up there with some of the
movers and shakers
out there, and no mention of this guy ever.
No.
So it's like, this guy was picked out of obscurity, basically. he's obviously going to be well financed by himself, and also from teacher groups and education groups and school administrators, TASB, TASA, all those acronyms that are taxpayer-funded lobbyists.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
They're going to be coming out of the woodwork to help him. Probably TLR. Those people who supported Van Dever will be the people supporting him. Now, they're probably not going to go out there and espouse, yay, this is Van Dever's handpicked successor, because let's face it, Van Dever was censured by the Republican Party of Texas.
Right. Which is a big deal.
Yeah. They said you are a bad guy. You did not adhere to the Republican platform and priorities and principles.
Right.
You voted against our interest.
Yeah.
And so they did. Now, he's fortunate he had a chance to not run, on his own rather than being forced off the ballot. If it hadn't been for Trump administration calling down to the RPT during their meeting where they were deciding this and saying, do not kick anybody off the ballot, that would have happened.
Well, I can't go into that. I know some people.
I know you do.
and anyway, we can talk about that off there.
Another time.
Yeah.
But anyway, so with all that said, Van Dever's out. Yay. Thank goodness, but he saw the writing on the wall. He knew where we were going with this. He tried during the legislative session to throw up that Marvin Nichols bill, 2109.
Yeah, which was a Hail Mary.
But you know what?
It had no teeth.
Well, no, it was a good bill.
Oh, because I thought it took 50 years.
Marvin Nichols has been on the planning board for over 50 years.
Oh, see, I read it as, and this just shows what I don't know. I read it as it's already been on for 50 years. It'd take another 50 to get it off.
No, this would automatically drop Marvin Nichols.
Oh, okay. So I read it wrong.
Planning.
I appreciate the correction, then.
But, like I said, it was a good bill. It would have ended Marvin Nichols if it had passed. But he's like, oh, never, got on the calendar too late. There was some major opposition from the cities against it, especially Dallas.
Right.
But I'm like, dude, you are a lieutenant of the speaker. You're a committee chair. A lot of the other people's bills come through your committee. You can leverage at least a vote on this.
Well, and just so people understand, Dale was a legislative director for Chris Money.
Brent
Money in the last session of the Texas legislature. So he knows exactly how the calendar works, and that's why you're saying this is how it works, because you were right there in the meat of it.
Yeah, and there's no committee chair out there that doesn't get a vote if he wants a vote. So he was trying to me play it both ways.
Right.
Say, hey, look at me, but it didn't work, and we're still stuck with Marvin Nichols on the planning board, and it's one of those things where he's looking at these things, and I'm thinking he just said, you know what, it's just not worth it anymore.
Yeah.
So that's good. Now, this new guy, he's going to be Gary Van Dever 2.0.
I need to reach out to him and get him.
Yeah,
him here. I want to give him a fair shake at it. You know me. I mean, not that I'll ever back away from my values, but
well, I know. I mean, I looked at his website, and he's got a few issues out there that are general apple pie and baseball and motherhood for conservatives. It's like, okay, but I don't really know his policies.
Right.
I don't know where he stands on the issues today. I don't know whether he would support open primaries or closed primaries.
Well, that's what I was about to ask. What are the major issues affecting, especially Republicans, but Texans coming up?
Well, to me, the big fight in the Republican Party right now is open primaries. We want to close them as the base wants to close them. We've had it in our platform. We're dang sure going to make it a priority if it's not done by then. And
so let me play the other side.
Okay, all right. Devil's Advocate.
Yeah, that's a great movie. But we want the people to be able to decide.
Okay.
Dale, I want the people to be able to vote for who they want to vote for.
Well, would you like to, let me put it in this sports terms. If you're an NFL team, would you want your rival to draft your players for you?
Well, it's there's free agency, so that, they could come get them if they wanted.
Yeah, but when you're having a draft and you're selecting your guy for your team to get you over the top, to make you competitive, to make you a winner, do you want your rival to come and select your guy for you?
Well, that's not fair, but that's not the same thing.
Fair.
That's not the same thing.
It is exactly. It is.
But what we want, we don't want. We're a democracy, and we want.
You know what? You have a perfect choice to exercise your democracy in the general election. We're talking primary elections.
But is the party not of the people?
Of the Republican people? Do you know the?
You're a segregated group?
Yes, we are. Did you know that the Republican Party is a private organization? It's not a public organization. It's not a part of government. It is a private, just like the Democrats are, just like the independents are. So you get to select your player. So
you're saying private organizations get to set their own rules?
Yes. That's what I was saying. And right now, we're having to fight the Republican Party over that. Well, portions of it. We have Attorney General Paxton siding with the Republican Party of Texas.
Which he needs them right now.
Yes, and saying, yes, we should close our primaries. Only let Republicans select their nominee for the general election.
Because what happens if they don't? Let's say in a state house race.
Okay. Well, what you have is let's say theoretically, you have conservatives on one side, a moderate Republican on the other side. And, there are no Democrats running in the race.
Right.
Because Democrats can't win in this environment.
Currently.
So what do the Democrats do? They look at that moderate and go, well, you know what? He's still a Republican, but, he's not going to give us school choice. He's not going to close primaries. He's going to do all these things that we want to see. He's going to work with us because he's for all the people. So he's going to give us wins on our agenda and not theirs.
Well, I'll go one step further for you. In a throwback to radio legend Rush Limbaugh.
Yes.
Yeah. He had Operation Chaos when Obama was running against Hillary. Mm-hmm. And that was to support Hillary, to change your, to go vote in Democrat primaries, to keep her in it as long as it could, to make Obama spend as much money as possible, which now it's even looking like that election was stolen if you're starting to look at some of the notes come out. But we don't have time to go into all that. But anyway, just to make her spend money. So with Operation Chaos on mind, let's say one of the people running in a race. Now, look, I enjoy the politics of it. Either I like some of the stuff the Democrats do because they stick together, they run together. I enjoy the theater of it outside of war.
You appreciate their strategy and their implementation of their tactics.
Absolutely. I love that's right. I love their political tactics. So let's say we're just going to make up hypothetical here. There's a guy running a conservative morning radio show at a local station, and then he's hearing this, and then there are 5 or 6 other stations in there, and one of them might be the urban station, and one of them might be a different station for different demographics, right. and then all of a sudden you start hearing that the guy who's not a conservative might be trailing in the grassroots. But then all of a sudden his radio buy goes up, or their radio buy goes up on the urban stations who aren't really Republicans, and their radio buy goes up on the pop stations, and then you realize their radio buy has stopped on the conservative station.
Yeah, what they're trying to do is they're trying to change the mix of the electorate to more favor them, because they're going to go where they think their voters are.
Right.
And if you think that as a moderate, your voters are those squishy Democrats who go, look at Donald Trump syndrome, the derangement syndrome. They hate Trump. They will vote against a rotten egg before they vote for Donald
for sure,
Trump.
all day.
And that's the same thing you have in some of these races. They're like, well, we can't go for Senator Cruz, so we'll pick whoever is running against him no matter what. Even though we don't like him, we don't care if he's for abortion or
all that doesn't matter.
Yeah, all that stuff doesn't matter. It's just he's not Cruz or he's not Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And that's what they'll do.
So that's what an open primary gets you.
That's what
anybody can come vote in it.
That's right.
And so one of the top priorities as that's facing Texans and Texas Republicans is we got to close these primaries so that grassroots can pick the actual people they want to.
That's right. And I don't know how much. I do know it affects our elections in our House. And I know that a lot of these Republicans can buck the party because they feel like they have that hidden support out there from the Democrats.
Even as far as the censure and all that.
Exactly. So it's one of those things where they're always mindful of that. Now, if they had to face Republican voters only that said declare themselves Republicans, and they say, I am a Republican, and if you vote in a Republican primary, you can't vote in the Democratic primary,
right? And
all that stuff, there would be a lot more deference paid to the Republicans.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what we're looking at. So that's one of the big issues I think that are currently going on right now that is kind of flying under the radar.
Right. Then we got property taxes, I think. But what do you think's next?
I do agree, property tax.
I don't think anybody will ever do anything about it, but
well, I think there will be. In fact, I believe that Spencer will be putting out bills to get rid of property taxes. But you know what? I'm okay if we don't eat that elephant all in one bite.
Right.
If we can say, if you're over 65 years old and you have a homestead exemption on a property, you don't pay property taxes
at all.
Because you've worked your life, you've paid taxes your whole life. And your income now is limited, in most cases, and you can't afford new appraisals and higher property taxes every year. Well, we've stopped the rising property tax, but you're still on the hook for them, no matter what your circumstances are.
Well, and originally it wasn't life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Life, liberty, and pursuit of property.
Yeah.
And they changed that. The founders did because they figured property was happiness.
Right.
And they just wanted to call it that.
Yeah.
So in fact, back then, did you know that only landowners were allowed to vote? Back in those days, they said if you own land, you could vote, and if you did not own land, you couldn't vote.
What a wild concept! If you pay taxes,
yes.
So here, let me give you Zach Ratliff conservative principle number 3, and it is: if you pay in more taxes than you get out from the system, you get to vote in the next election. If you don't, they just turn your Social Security number off to even if you break even or pay more than you get back. Mm-hmm. Then you get to vote. If you don't, then you just don't get to say we let the people whose money we're wasting,
right.
And then we would see one number who got elected. First of all, middle-aged white women are the issue.
Yeah.
And side note, the majority, only 49%, like 49.2 or something percent of my listeners are men. So I have barely, but I have more women listeners than I do men. And I'll say it again. Middle-aged white women are the issue. But I'm not even trying to get into that. But if you pay more taxes, or at least even than what you get out, you should get to vote. If you don't, it's not your money. Stop stealing it from us. We'll make the decisions. I know it's a crazy radical concept.
Yeah, and that's probably, I'm probably farther than I would go.
Yeah, I know. I'm not trying to speak for you.
Yeah, I know, because every instinct in me says, yeah, let's agree with him. But I think about it, I'm like, nah, because you're governed under those laws anyway. You should have a say. So, and who puts those laws on you?
I hear you.
So, I'm not there. But
see, and this
but
one
there's so many different plans out there. Our representative before Gary Van Dever, George Lavender,
good
actually
guy.
had a bill out there to end property taxes in Texas.
Yeah.
It was a good bill, but he got hammered on that. It looked like it had legs at one time, but it never went anywhere. When Van Dever beat him in an election, you never heard about property tax reform out of House District 1 ever again.
Right.
Now, Van Dever can say, yeah, I'm against property taxes, or I'm for lowering it, or whatever, but he never did anything.
But Dale, how are we going to fund the government? We've got too many expenses without property taxes.
There are so many plans out there on how to fund the government.
Value-added tax. There's all kinds of ways.
There's always, except for an income tax. That's the line in the sand in Texas.
Thank God.
My God, you will not do that. And I can't think of a single person that would publicly advocate for that.
It would be political suicide.
Absolutely.
Well, which is how you know
But the
that I'm
Democrats
not
don't
running,
care.
because I just told you that white women are the thing, and that if you don't make enough, if you don't pay taxes, you shouldn't vote. But that's where we are. Okay, so we've got open primaries, property taxes. What else is Texas looking at?
Actually, one of the biggest things I see on the horizon here is Islamophobia, I guess, if you want to call it that. It's the encroachment of Islam on American values, culture, government.
Is it Islamophobia or just eyes being open?
Well,
because I'm not calling to.
I said a lot of Islamophobia.
Islamophobia.
Yeah, it's easy for you to say.
Yeah,
but it's not fear of Islam. Really, it's not.
No.
It's protection of American values and American culture.
If you want to come here and assimilate and be part of our culture, I'm 100% for you being here.
Yeah, but the problem is there's a constitutional discrepancy, I guess, that is in there, because there's
Freedom
two
of
things.
religion.
One is the Constitution guarantees America, United States, a Republican form of government. Sharia law is not Republican.
We're not democratic.
No, we're not democratic. Sharia is not. In fact, Islam is
Antithetical? No.
yeah,
Isn't that right?
antithetical.
Antithetical, yeah.
Antithetical to American governance and culture. Now, but we also have in our Constitution freedom of religion.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are two competing things, because Islam says, if you're a true Muslim and a true believer in your textbooks and the preachings of your imams and such, that is not what you want. That is not what you strive for. You want to be under Islamic rule, and that is not the American way. However, we also believe in freedom of religion, and the courts have historically weighed in more on the freedom of religion rather than the Republican form of government, because the Republican form of government was created to protect freedom of religion.
Right.
So you see, it's a chicken and egg argument, but they're leaning more towards the egg than the chicken in this case.
Well, here's what's going on. I don't know if you've been paying attention to Japan. They have a new cutthroat prime minister over there now. It's a lady,
Yeah, right?
And I really like cutthroat. I really like her.
Yeah.
But she's come out and said, "Hey, Muslims can't have cemeteries in Japan." And she's like, you can. Our culture is cremation, and you can do that, or you can send the bodies home to where you came from and go back to your own culture. And for a long time, being a Muslim was having a Quran in Japan is banned. That you were not allowed to have one, and I'm not sure if it's still the case, but for a long time that was the case. However, in the United States, and I don't know, it was mid 1900s, you could not be a sitting U.S. congressman and be a Muslim.
I don't know. Yeah, I can't.
I'll date it.
Okay, I can't be 100% sure if that was the case or not. I do know that Jefferson, even back in his day, warned about the Islamic threat.
Well, the Marines were started because of the Barbary pirates.
Absolutely, and that's where we are today. We have basically the Barbary pirates are back, and we need to rise up and protect our nation against that thing. So that is one of those things where we're going to have to figure out a way to do this in a way that protects our values and our culture, yet also prevents them from doing what they're doing.
Okay, yeah, and I misspoke. There was a different law. Yeah, and so it was no religious test shall ever be required for public office.
Well, what they talk about now is they want to ban dual citizenship people.
Right.
For one thing, they want to ban dual citizenship outright in America.
Which I'm okay with that.
Either you're an American or you're not.
Right.
And I agree with that 100%. But we need to have, personally, I think we need a law in Texas that says if you are a dual citizen, you cannot hold public office at the state or local level.
I'm okay with that.
Because the federal level, of course, is going to be covered under
because I want my elected representatives representing our country. You take an oath
Yes.
to the country.
Right.
And in Texas, you take an oath to the state.
I mean, I don't want a dual citizen of, say, America and Canada, one of those weird places,
Right.
And I'm serious. Canada is nuts. The UK is getting, in fact, there was a British guy who came to Florida on vacation, and he's, the Americans out there, they're shooting guns and such and having a good old time. They say, hey, you want to shoot one? And he's like, yeah, and the pictures, he's terrified.
Yeah.
But, he's got these guns out there and he's posing with them. They arrested him
When he got home?
on suspicion of having guns.
What a wild thing.
It is. It's crazy. I mean, they arrest 10,000 people a month, I think, on social media posts of what they've posted.
That's
UK
crazy.
is gone, So
Yeah.
do I want dual citizenship with that?
No.
Forget about Muslim countries and everything. Any country out
Right.
there. Because if we
Because
don't...
China, look at how many Chinese are coming in.
Oh,
Texas.
yeah.
Here's where I got this from. There's never been a federal law prohibiting Muslim or adherents of any religion from serving in Congress. Claims circulating about the 1952 McCarran-Walter Act banning Muslims from public office are false. That dealt with immigration quotas, and so that's what I'd read. So there you go. So
Okay, yeah, and there's been lots of laws. In fact, that's where we're at today. Freezing immigration from third world countries.
Right.
I think that's very appropriate. We need a pause on immigration until we can sweep out what we got in already.
it happened it happened. Was it after World War II? It happened, or during World War II? Somewhere around that time period, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, well, we've had.
Wasn't it World War II?
Well, for a long time, it was illegal for Chinese to immigrate to America. It just wasn't allowed.
Right.
So there's lots of stuff, and we can go into that later. But that's to me, that's like the third big thing that the people are concerned about and want to talk about. And I just came back from a summit of conservative leaders in Tyler from across the state, and the whole day was basically talking about the Islamic threat to America.
Really?
Oh yeah, and like I said, we can talk about that a lot more. And
Well, let me say this, and I've said it before. The Crusades, the Christian Crusades, Christians we're always like, oh, we're not violent, we're not violent, we're not violent. And people are like, oh, what about the Crusades? Well, the
Crusades were violent.
Okay, they were violent, but they were after 400 years of Muslim takeover.
That's right, and war where the Muslims were trying to invade Europe and such also. But I'm not saying Christianity hasn't had its dark days.
Yeah.
Spanish Inquisition. I mean, that was pretty horrible.
I always think of the Monty Pythons when I hear the Spanish Inquisition.
True enough. But even our country was kind of founded because of religious persecution of Christians against Christians.
That's right.
Our pilgrims coming over, on the Mayflower. They escaped England. They went to Denmark and the Netherlands, and then they had to leave from there, and they went to a new country. Christianity has violence in it, and just like any other place, the Hindu religion, Buddhist, any.
Men have always been willing to kill men for what they believe.
That's right, exactly. So that's not something. But then again, we don't codify that in our religion.
That's right.
We don't say that. You must go behead the infidel.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you can lie about it and be okay. All right. Let's.
Okay.
We'll move on. So that's number 3. Then what you have a fourth one?
Fourth one.
And while you're thinking about it, because I know a man of high intelligence, some of yourself, you can think and talk. So, you mentioned Marvin Nichols earlier.
Yeah.
And that's big to us. But here, I've kind of got a counter view on it. Well, I don't know that I have a counter view. I can at least see another side to it. I still am pretty much against it. However, every lake in Texas had to come from eminent domain other than the Caddo.
Right.
Because we only have one natural lake. And so I'm like, okay, this has happened before. Like Possum Kingdom, there are pictures of, they have what they call Hell's Gate in Possum Kingdom, and there are pictures of people riding their mules through the creek, and and now that's the party cove, right? And so, but that doesn't mean I want it to happen where I live or in Paris or
Well, I mean, but what you're talking about is the good old days, the pioneer days,
Right.
when the state was being built up from the ground, and that was the technology at the time.
Yeah.
Go build a lake to supply your water needs. We're past that. Number one, populations are too big.
Yeah.
Number two, the energy uses and the water needs are too great to be supplied by reservoirs. We need a different technology, a different technological solution. That's why you have these small nuclear reactors, modular reactors coming in.
which that's a big deal.
It is, because you wanted me to give you a fourth, and I'll give you a fifth also. One is water, and the other is energy, because we're running out of that. And the more we get these data farms in that suck up a tremendous amounts of
And all our
electricity
rates are going through the roof.
and water,
over
yeah, and they're actually, we've got it now to where we're encouraging corporations that run these farms and everything, build your own power plants, on site, supply you. If you got excess, put it back into
Because
the grid.
how long have we had nuke power in our Navy?
In our Navy, God, since the 50s,
So we know we are practiced in small reactors. If you call it small, I mean running a ship that big, but we could power 100,000 people. And there's the guy came on. It was either Joe Rogan or one of those shows to talk about this. And he goes into it. He's like, here's what I'm doing, building these small nuclear reactors, and you can power 50 to 100,000 people at a time with very little. Even 3 Mile Island was blown out of proportion in the damage that it did, and Chernobyl.
well, Chernobyl's pretty bad.
Yeah, but
And I have actually looked at the core of 3 Mile Island.
have you?
Yeah, at the bottom of a pool in Idaho. Where
I forget that you're a nuclear guy.
Yeah, well, in fact, I wrote a report that's in the Electrical Power Research Institute out in California about advanced early permitting, early site permitting for new advanced light water reactors.
Okay.
And that was way back, God, in the 80s, I guess.
Okay.
And now reactor designs they've progressed so much. They've got molten salt reactors, which can never melt down.
Really?
They are super safe. You've got thorium reactors. We've got all
I don't even know what
kinds.
thorium is, other than a god from the Vikings.
No, not Thor, thorium. But anyway, it's there's so many different new advanced designs in nuclear technology that we can go to small modular reactors where it's like, if our needs, we'll build a core here. We can put it out to 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, and they'll be safe. And we're going to need that to meet our electricity.
And there's no more energy more clean.
Right. Exactly.
Well, and so let me go back to my Chernobyl statement, because you being the expert, Chernobyl, in what I've read, and it could be wrong, was a steps of man-made mistakes.
They were running a routine test on a reactor that went wildly out of control.
Right. So not that it wasn't a problem, but had the right steps been taken, I think it could have been maintained more. So that's kind of my point. Is it was blown out of proportion for
They're Russians. They're probably drunk on the job or something. I don't know. I mean, that might be a slam to Russians, but have you looked at their military lately?
Right.
I mean, they are sloppy, and communism does not work.
Yeah. Still.
You cannot have rigorous, robust systems if you got people who are basically forced to do something at slave rate wages.
Yeah, they don't care.
Yeah, they don't care.
You get a Chernobyl.
You get a Chernobyl, and that was bad, folks.
Right.
But still, we've got tons of reactors buried out there in Idaho from Navy ships.
Oh, is that where we put them?
Yeah, that's where we put our spent nuclear cores out there. So there's lots of things out there. We have and now with that type of energy that we can generate, that's safe and basically inexhaustible. We can keep doing that. that makes desalination a very viable.
What a crazy thought that we
Yeah.
could just pull it out of the ocean and drink it.
That's right. And that's what the Middle East does.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia, Israel, they all have these massive desalination plants out there supplying their drinking water. They're not getting it out of the Jordan River.
So we don't have to take all this land,
No, we
hundreds
don't.
of thousands of acres.
You know what? There's two things. One is it's way cheaper for a metroplex to steal from rural Texas. And number two is they want control of the resources in rural Texas. And that's exactly what they get. So, yeah, it's no good.
So if we can desalinate and power through nuke energy, which then, because here's the thing about all the windmills in Texas, wind don't blow in August.
No. It's
So, yeah, no wonder we don't have any power.
They're inefficient. They are not ecologically sound.
No.
I mean, hey, they're nasty. That's dirty technology right there.
Well, just even the oil it takes to grease them,
Right.
the way they rape the earth for everything, part of it to be made.
The chemicals that they shed, no. Wind and solar are not viable
Right.
for large-scale commercial use.
If you want to do solar on your house and
Yeah.
save, you can
Or
do that.
Even if you want to put, if you're a building, and you've got a parking garage, you can put it on the top of the parking garage.
And you can save some money. And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can go small scale commercial, and supply basically your electricity needs for small businesses.
Right.
If we were able to get out of the way of the regulations and everything that we've got on them now.
Well, and the energy companies have done a good job, the energy lobby, I should say, of making nuke scary.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the ecological stuff. I've had the Snake River Alliance out there about 20 years ago, name me as one of their number one bad guys.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, because I was doing environmental impact statements on spent nuclear fuel and also the classification of defense waste products. So I was doing the accident analysis parts of those, and they hated me. So and like I say, if you have nuclear waste, you can dispose of it safely. You can basically put it into a glass matrix, put that molten glass into a metal container, into a concrete container, and bury that sucker, and it will last 10,000 years.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I mean, we can do that. But enough of that. Anyway, there's 6 right there.
Okay. So there's a lot going on in Texas. All right, let's get now. I'm going to segue into this event on Saturday.
Oh, okay.
But I'm going to do this. I wasn't going to bring it up, but you brought up that you worked for NASA, and I have a long-standing thing with you.
I might have to kill you.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm worried about. By the way, if you ever see Dell in public, he is armed. I know. I mean, no doubt. Side note, you ever see me in public?
True.
And if everybody carried a gun,
We'd be a lot politer.
everybody be real nice to each other.
Yeah.
So you said you worked in NASA, and here's the thing that I think. What was your role at NASA?
Well, I had several. One was quality and safety and mission assurance. I did that for a long, long time. I worked in the mission evaluation room, which is just off mission control. If there was a problem on the space station, it came to the what we call the MER, and we would go work the problem and fix it and provide the solutions back to the front control room and say, this is what you got to go do.
So this is the room in Apollo 13 that came up with the air filter?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
So,
right.
so that's what I did for a long time. I worked on the mission management team for the space station. That was dealing with the Russians and all the other technical disciplines up there, deciding what the big things were doing. I also worked, and then later on, I worked in the engineering directorate, where I took care of configuration management for all the government furnished equipment that we built there at Johnson Space Center.
Right. Okay, cool.
So, yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you my view on this. And then obviously you won't be able to say yes or no, but I'm going to give you my view on this. And I think it's crazy. In the last few years, the government's come out more and more about UAPs, and which is golly, what's that even stand for now? It's basically a UFO.
Identified
Unidentified aerial phenomenon.
phenomena. Yeah.
And
I don't know what you're talking about.
yeah, here's my thought. There's in Ephesians 6, the Bible makes it very clear that we're in a battle against principalities not of this world.
Right.
So I take that to believe there are principalities not of this world.
True.
And so, with that being said, a lot of this UFO stuff, I think a lot of it's just crap and just made up. And a lot. But if there is something, I lean to the side of it's a spiritual thing and a spiritual war that can be seen at times and can't be seen at other times. That's, look, I'm just regular Zach. I don't have any expertise, but that's where I am. But I'm going to throw it to you because you said there's weird stuff in space, but that's all you'll ever tell me.
There's weird stuff in space. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there. If you start looking into some of the more deeper, complex mathematics, it sort of does explain that there's the possibility of other dimensions and
there has to be, right?
Other planes of existence out there, and those
which would be a spiritual plane, which would be,
yes,
yeah,
it could be, and we don't know yet, and we may never know,
right?
But for what we do know that there's possible, but then again, we have a book that tells us that it's true.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay.
And the rest of us should. If we ever get aliens coming to Earth, it'll be like, okay, that will probably fit in somewhere there.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's one. I don't have all the answers.
Yeah, I know you don't. And I didn't want to put you in a weird spot, but here's how I think heaven goes. And I developed part of this when I was 3, and I've just held on to it. First thing you get when you get to heaven, a thing of chocolate pudding. That's from when I was 3. And then I think you get to know what you're supposed to know, and that's when we'll find out some things.
That's what I think that I personally hope that when we get to heaven, first is we'll be able to say hello to those we've missed.
I think so. Side note, my brother, who I love dearly, who's been dead now for years and years, I've prayed about this, and I'm sure God will change my heart at some point. I'm going to punch him right in the face, and then I'm going to give him the biggest hug and tell him I love him and I miss him.
Well, I personally, I think that we do change when we go to heaven.
Absolutely. Jesus did.
Yeah, one of the things I look for most of all is being free of temptation.
Oh, yeah.
That is the number one thing I look forward to.
Yeah.
To no longer be tempted by evil.
Yeah.
Will be such a relief and a blessing.
Yeah.
I can't hardly describe it.
No doubt.
And then seeing my loved ones that made it there, and then I look at it, it's like, like they said, you have a place in heaven. Jesus has prepared a house for us, and I hope.
If I wasn't, why would I tell you so?
Yeah, and I hope my dogs that I really truly, out of all the dogs I've had, there's a couple I really want with me.
Yeah.
And I don't see why that can't happen.
Yeah.
And then I get to go explore.
Yeah.
And that's what an eternity to just go find answers.
And worship God.
Yeah.
That's good. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
That's where I am.
Okay. So I took the NASA thing, but I didn't go quite where you thought we were going. But but that's how I kind of see it. So anyway, and with that, and $7, you can go buy yourself a coffee at Starbucks.
That's right. That's just heaven according to Zach and Dale.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. If you want to find out for yourself, Romans 10:9 and 10:10 for with your heart. You believe, and with your tongue you confess. So there you go. All right, so let's get to Saturday. You got something big coming up.
Yeah, we have there at Lost Pizza here in Texarkana. We're going to have
great pizza.
Yes, good pizza. I have had a campaign event there. I've been there when Kim Paxton showed up.
Yeah, I was at that one.
Yeah. Well, this Saturday, Mays Middleton, who's running for Texas Attorney General, one of the most conservative senators we had in the last, since he's been in the Senate, is going to be here. And there's going to be Chris Spencer, who is running for House District 1. And I'll be there myself.
Okay.
And I'm running for Bowie County Republican Party chair.
What time on Saturday?
12 o'clock.
Okay.
And the pizza's free. the Spencer campaign is going to be paying for that.
Okay.
So kudos to Chris.
So come get you one and take it to go.
Yeah, but don't come for the pizza. Come for the knowledge. Come listen to these guys speak, because you don't want to just go ask your friend at church, well, who are you voting for?
Right.
When de Tocqueville toured America, he was so impressed with the knowledge every American he ran into about who their leaders were, that they knew what was going on.
Who's de Tocqueville for those of us that aren't read?
Oh, he was a Frenchman who came over and did the, what was it, Coming to America?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I always confuse that with the movie.
Yeah, I may be doing that too.
But it was something along those lines.
Yeah, but anyway, he came over and Europe was completely different than America.
Right.
And he was like, these people
They know their stuff.
Truly govern themselves.
Yeah.
And the only way you can govern yourself is to have knowledge of that government and make sure that you are making the correct decision.
Well, we've got all the information in the world on these tables and on this stuff. We doing good?
Right.
You doing good?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I'm okay. But we like to watch cat videos instead of learning what.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we're going to have Mays Middleton, you, Chris Spencer.
Yeah. And we're going to go out there and we'll talk a little bit, and we'll give people a chance to meet us and talk with us and, make your own decision.
Well, that being said, what are you running for?
Oh, I'm running for Bowie County Republican Party chairman.
Okay.
I think it's time for a change here.
Okay.
We just talked about this event. Well, actually, I helped organize that.
Okay.
I was calling Mays Middleton because I've got his number, and I've been friends with him since before he was in the state legislature.
Right.
And I said, hey, why don't you come here and get on my radio show on the Friday and come to the Bowie County Patriots on Thursday? And he goes, I can't make those days. I've got something else, but I will be in Paris, Texas at the Republican Executive Committee there that evening on Saturday. And he goes, but I'm open on Saturday during the day. And I go, great. Let me set up an event.
Yeah.
So he says, okay. So he agreed to come. I got with Chris and I said, hey, Mays is going to come on Saturday. Let's set something up. And we did. So that's how this all started. See, that's something that our county chair should be working on all the time, is bringing people in here who are running for higher office.
So that we can all get to know them.
That's right. So you can meet them. So you can go share a laugh with them or a picture or just hear them talk.
And you mentioned this organization, and Steve's on here often. One thing I enjoy about the Bowie County Patriots is the amount of people that come in. And so it's good to have it now happening on a different level. Because I believe if the county party got involved, we could get an even wider breadth of people.
Listen, these guys will come if you ask.
Yeah.
If you never ask, they never come.
Right.
I was at an executive county executive committee hearing, or no, quarterly meeting a while back. And they were talking about how, somebody, the RPT chair came to the Bowie County Patriots. And they're like upset that they came to the Bowie County Patriots and not to the Bowie County Republican Party. And one lady says, well, why did they go to the Patriots and not to us? And the answer was, because they asked. It's as simple as that.
It's the oldest thing in the book.
It is.
Did you ask? No. Well, then it didn't happen.
See, and we need a higher level of engagement here with our state leaders and within our community too. I mean, does anybody out there listening know when the last executive committee of the Bowie County Republican Party was held?
Or whatever county you're in, yeah.
Do you know when the next one is? No. The answer is no. Can you get a hold of the Bowie County Republican Party? Let me ask you that.
Yeah.
No, there's a Facebook page out there with no contact information.
Yeah, where's the Bowie County Republican Party office?
Do you know who your precinct chairs are?
We had this conversation. I did not.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where they keep it like it's a secret little golf club.
And look, I get from the outside perspective Got to get little Johnny to basketball practice, and got to get little Susie to dance, and you got a wedding coming up, and it's your anniversary, and you got Christmas here, and there's a lot to do, and you got family, and you got work, and interest is up and the stock market's down, as Hank said, and all the things. There's a lot to worry about, to not have time to be like, this is just something else I have to worry about.
Well, see that every precinct chair, the county chairman, they're elected positions. They're elected during the primary. They are your intermediaries with government to you. Yeah, you have your life to live. You don't have time to go figure all this stuff out. That's why us who step up and say, yes, we want the job, that's our responsibility to go do. We're the ones who are supposed to go learn that stuff.
And then bring it back to your constituents?
Yes.
What a crazy thought, Dale.
I know, and we haven't had that for a decade. You know, they talk about, Bowie County, we elect Republicans about 70, 75%, margins. It's like you're electing them with a 75% margin of maybe 20% electorate.
Right.
Of the people who are allowed to vote, who are registered to vote, only 20% of them are voting.
Right.
So you're getting 75% of 20%. Right. It's like, that's not good enough. We have Marxism and socialism coming up in our schools. We have the Islamic threat on our horizon. We have rural issues that need to be taken care of.
We have a school district here locally that, was it last year or the year before, had a very sexually suggestive quiz given out to fifth graders without parents' permission, and luckily some local moms got a hold of this and ran it up the poll. But I mean, our school districts are doing whatever they want.
Oh, we've had pornography in our school libraries,
right,
for years, for decades.
Yeah,
and only recently have we been starting to root that stuff out.
Right.
We've got laws
and freedom of speech.
Yeah,
well, not for a fourth grader.
No. You can't put evil under a constitutional protection.
Well, when evil becomes good and good becomes evil, it's a bad sign.
Yes, sir.
It's a bad sign. So anyway, we've got this going on 12 p.m. Saturday. That's this Saturday, which is the 6th.
Yeah.
Today's the 3rd. My birthday, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Today. So 12 p.m. Saturday the 6th, Lost Pizza here in Texarkana. It's going to be worth being at.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think there'll be quite a large crowd. So get there early and and participate. This is a part of your government that you should be doing, participating.
Right. And this is what it's about. And you hit some of the county stuff. Is there any other county stuff that we need to know about that's going on?
Well, one thing is we need to work with the other counties to increase our voice down in Austin.
Okay.
The current county chair, he don't want anything to do with any other county in our district.
Well, and I get he got a job and he's busy and all these things, but let's get somebody who can do it. If you're too busy, okay. Yeah, we'll accept that. Let's get somebody that can.
Yeah, I got nothing personal against the guy who's there right now that I'll be running against. But you know what? I've got a different plan. I have a different vision. I want to be more engaged. I want people, when they have a question on politics, to be able to either type in a question or text something or just call and say, hey, I got a question here.
Right.
What's the answer? And be able to give that information back to them in a fairly real-time situation.
Well, in a world where information is readily available, you're not used to having to wait on it.
Okay, yeah. I was wondering if you're going Twilight Zone on me or not. But yeah, you're right. We're used to instant information. Do a AI or something real quick.
Like I just did.
Yeah, get an answer right away.
Yeah.
But you've got to be a trusted source also.
Yes.
And that's part of what I want to build, here in the community. We need to look at our politics on the local level.
Yeah.
We never do that here.
No.
We don't know what's going on in DeKalb, Texarkana, Hooks,
right.
You name it.
All part of our county.
Yeah. What's the county court doing? You know, what are the commissioners doing? What is the judge doing? You know,
I'm going to try to get. We've got some people running for judge, and we'll try to get them.
Yeah,
in here. We've got a lot happening.
Yeah, and then we got the state stuff. We got the federal guys. You know,
Yeah.
There's a lot of levels of government here, and you guys need to be informed. You need to know what's going on, and I'd like to bring that. I'm not looking to build an empire here. I'm 67 years old. I've got 2 decades basically of politics behind me.
Right.
I want to share that with the next generation.
Right.
I want to be able to share what I know, the organizational skills I have, the political context I've got, the knowledge, the wisdom and experience, such as it is that I have, and share that and pass it on, because I'm not going to be doing this much longer.
Right.
And I just want to get it out there. And, so when I walk away, I know that there's others who will put that load on their shoulders and carry it forward.
Right.
And I can relax.
Right.
And I know that we're in good hands. That's why I'm running.
Okay.
So, and if you want to know more about my positions, www.Huls for Bowie GOP. That's HULS for either the word or the number 4, BowieGOP.com.
There you go.
And I'm on Facebook, and I stay engaged there. So, and if you got a question, my phone number's on my website, my phone number's on my Facebook page. Send me a text, give me a call,
He's got a list of endorsers on his page.
Yeah, there's more coming on that. I've been sort of slack on getting the endorsements in, but
That's all right.
we're ready to go.
Okay.
And it will be a big change.
Well, I look forward to it. I look forward to what's going to happen. I thank you for coming in today.
Hey, no problem. Like I say, you call, I'll come.
Wide-reaching conversation. All right, everybody, we're going to get out of here. Dale, thank you for coming.
No problem, man.
All right, thanks, everybody. I hope God blesses each and every one of you today.
Amen.